All right, hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a story about a girl named Jenny Cho and her epic struggle with, of all things, chopsticks. I know, it sounds kind of simple, right? But trust me, her journey is this amazing roadmap for how any of us can learn to master pretty much any skill out there.
So let me ask you something. What is the hardest thing you've ever tried to learn? Seriously, think about it for a sec. Was it, I don't know, an instrument? A new language? Maybe just trying to whistle? You know that feeling, right? That deep frustration when something just will not click. We've all been there. So hold on to that feeling because it's going to be really important as we get into Jenny's story.
Okay, so let's meet our hero, Jenny Cho. Now for Jenny, the ultimate challenge, it wasn't climbing Mount Everest or anything like that. Nope, it was something she had to face every single night at the dinner table. And her arch nemesis, a humble, simple pair of chopsticks.
And this really just says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the expectation, graceful, elegant eating. And on the other, well, that's Jenny's reality. Instead of grace, you get a kazing as food goes flying. Instead of a nice clean table, you get a splat. And control? Forget about it. It was more like kabung as her dinner decided to make a run for it.
And this really gets to the core of it, right? In her own words, they were just too slippery, wobbly, and tricky. I mean, for Jenny, these things weren't just utensils. They were like this impossible puzzle she just couldn't solve.
But you know what the worst part was? It wasn't just her struggling by herself. The thing that really made it sting was failing in front of her cousin, Victor. He'd just laugh. And that social pressure, that fear of being laughed at, it just turns a small, tricky problem into this huge, embarrassing ordeal.
So, as if things weren't already tough enough for Jenny, her private little struggle was about to become very public. The pressure is really about to get turned up.
And it all kicks off with this invitation. See, Victor's birthday isn't just a party. Oh no. It's the stage for the annual Chopsticks Challenge, a huge Chow family tradition. And the task this year? A cupcake dash. Can you imagine trying to pick up a soft, crumbly cupcake with chopsticks at high speed? Yeah, the pressure is officially on. And this right here, this is her deepest, darkest fear. It's not really about the cupcakes or the party. It's that nagging voice in her head asking, what if I fumble forever? That terrifying thought that maybe, just maybe, she's the only one who will never get it. The fear of being left behind while everyone else just figures it out.
Okay, but this is where the story gets really good. Because instead of just giving up, Jenny does something incredible. She channels all that frustration, all that embarrassment, and turns it into innovation. She stops being a victim of the tricky chopsticks and starts becoming an inventor.
So she starts experimenting, right? Her first thought, okay, let's make them less slippery. She tries wrapping them in things, roughing them up. Nothing works. Failure. All right, plan B. Maybe wooden ones will be less wobbly. Nope. Another failure. But this is so important. This whole trial and error thing, that's a huge part of the learning process.
And then, the breakthrough. And it came from a totally unexpected place. It wasn't about staring at the chopsticks harder. It was about looking at something else entirely. She's in the kitchen, sees a simple pair of kitchen tongs, and boom, the light bulb goes off.
So what was it about the tongs? What was their secret? One simple thing. A hinge. It's just a mechanism that keeps the two parts steady and connected, so they pivot from one single point. That's it. That was the key. It gave them stability and control, the very things her chopsticks were missing.
So she immediately puts this idea into action. Step 1, she really looks at the tongs hinge. Step 2, she prototypes. She actually wedges an origami star she'd made between the chopsticks to act as a hinge. Step 3, test and refine. She realizes if she slides the star to the middle, she gets a way better grip. And just like that, success! The chopstick tongs are born. How cool is that?
Now this is absolutely crucial. Her invention wasn't some magic wand that instantly solved the problem. Not at all. It was a training tool. Think of it like training wheels for a bike. It was a physical guide that finally let her practice the right way, building up that muscle memory and, just as importantly, her confidence. All right, so now we're at the party. This is it, the moment of truth. She's got her secret weapon, she's practiced all week, and she is feeling ready. But, you know there has to be a twist, right? There's always a final hurdle. So they start announcing the rules for the challenge, and then she hears the one phrase she was dreading.
No poking or other tricks. And just like that, her entire strategy is out the window. Her secret weapon, her brilliant invention, is forbidden. The tool she was counting on is gone.
I mean, can you just imagine that moment? The one thing that gave you all your confidence is suddenly illegal, and on top of that, everyone is watching you, just staring, waiting to see what you're going to do, especially Victor. The pressure is just through the roof.
And this, right here, is the real takeaway of the whole story. She can't use the physical trick. So what does she do? She uses the mental one. She just quickly imagines her little invention. See, all that practice she did, it wasn't just for her hands. It was building a perfect picture in her brain of how the chopstick should feel and move.
And guess what? It works. It totally works. She picks up the cupcake, no problem at all. Flawless. And the very first sound she hears? Wow! It's Victor. He's cheering. The one person she was so afraid of laughing at her is now her biggest fan. I mean, that's just the perfect ending, right?
So this is more than just a cute story about chopsticks, right? What can we all learn from Jenny's big win? Let's break down the actual lessons here, because they apply to learning literally anything.
So here's the playbook Jenny's story gives us. First, don't be afraid to use creative tools to help you get started and build some confidence. Then, you gotta realize that practice isn't just mindless repetition. The real goal is to build a mental model, a clear picture of what success looks like. Your goal should always be to internalize that skill so deeply that it becomes second nature. Because in the end, Jenny proved that real mastery doesn't live in the tool, it lives in your mind.
So, in the end, this wasn't really about chopsticks. By figuring this out, Jenny learned something way more important. She learned how to learn. She went from being this kid who was terrified of a challenge to someone who was ready for any tricky thing life could throw at her.
And that really brings us back to you. Remember that hard skill we talked about at the beginning? After hearing Jenny's story, what's the tricky challenge that you're going to master next?